Hello everyone, hope you're doing great. Welcome back to another exciting video in our Python for Test Automation series. In today's video, we are diving into a very important concept in Python by name Python exceptions. Whether you are writing an automation script or building a large test framework, understanding how to handle expected errors is critical for making your code more robust and reliable. In today's session, we will cover what are exceptions, common Python exceptions with examples, try, except and final block, raising exceptions manually, best practices in exception handling, and some practical exercises. Let's get started. What are exceptions? In programming, an exception is an unexpected event or an error that occurs while the program is running. Okay, it means that it happens only at a runtime, not at a compile time, and it disturbs the normal flow of execution. Let us try to understand exception with the help of real world scenario. Have you tried opening an application, tapped something, and suddenly the app crashes? This is often due to an unhandled exception. It's like the app is trying to load a data that does not exist, or it is receiving an input it did not expect. Exception handling is like giving the application an backup plan. So instead of crashing, it can show a message and then it can recover gracefully. Now let us try to understand some common causes of exceptions. Exceptions can happen for various reasons, such as dividing a number by 0, trying to access a file that does not exist, referencing something that does not has been defined yet, using a data in a wrong format or a type, trying to access an element outside the bounds of an array, okay, and trying to access a key that does not exist in a dictionary. Let us create some exceptions in Python. Now let's try to divide a number by 0. For this we'll take two numbers, a equals to 10 and b equals to 0. Then we have result equals to a divided by b. Let us try to execute this and see what kind of error it gives. So we have an exception telling that 0 division error. Okay, this is a exception. Let us try to note it down. Okay, so when you try to divide a number by 0, it causes an exception, and that exception is called as 0 division exception, 0 division error exception. Now let us try to access a file that does not exist, and let us see what kind of exception that Python raises. Okay, and for this I have a piece of code. I am trying to access a file, non-existence file.txt, in a current directory. So in a data directory I don't have this file, but I am trying to access it and trying to read the content. Okay, let us try to execute this. This should give us an exception. You see, so file not found error. This is an exception that is thrown by Python. Let us also try to capture this. Let us try to use a variable that is not defined yet, okay, and see what kind of error Python gives. Let us do a print not defined. Okay, and try to execute this. You see, Python is giving a name error. This is an exception that it is throwing. Now let us try to simulate a wrong format or a type error. For this, result equals to 5 plus string. We're trying to add a string with the number. Let us execute it, and Python says it is a type error exception, unsupported operands. One is integer and another one is a string. Let us try to capture this. So basically we are trying to add an integer with a string. If both of them are a string, then this will perform, this will basically do an append operation. If both of them are number, it will perform an addition. But if the types are different, then it says it is an type error. Now let us try to create an value error. So we can try this example, try to convert a string into an integer. If I try to do this as 50, this should work. This should not show me an error. So this worked fine, and I can also capture it as a result, and then I can basically print a result. This should give me a 50. Okay, and I can also type of this. This should give me an integer. It basically says type of the result is integer. Okay, instead of 50, if I try to do it as ABC, we're trying to convert a string into an integer which is of not a numerical format, then it shows that there is an value error. Okay, this is a kind of exception. Now let us try to access an array element outside of its bounds. Okay, let us basically create a list like animals, and I can give it as cat, dog, then cow, then sheep, etc. So basically it has 1, 2, 3, 4 elements. I can access each element of this list using an index. For example, if I try to print animal of 1, so all index will always start from 0. So 0 and 1. 1 should be dog. Let us execute this. Got a dog. Okay. So if I give it as 1, 2, 3, 4, that is 0, 1, 2, 3. If I give more than 3 here, you should basically trying to access an element of an array that does not exist. Okay. So let us see what kind of error Python throws here. You see there is an index error. So this throws an index error. Let us capture this. Now let us try to access a key in a dictionary that does not exist. For this, let us define a dictionary. Dict emp equals to, for our bracket, then you need to have a key, then colon, value name as test, then let us give another parameter, comma, then you have age, colon 35. Okay, let us try to print a dict. So you have this, and if I print dict name, it should give me the value, that is test, and if I give it as the age here, it should give me 35. If I give it as address, then this key is not available in a dictionary, it should throw an error. This is an exception. Basically Python shows as it throws an exception called key error. Let us try to capture this. What we have done up to now is try to create different kinds of exceptions in Python. In the next session, we'll try to understand how to handle these exceptions. In Python, you can catch and handle exception using try and except block. This prevents your program from crashing when the exception occurs. The syntax for try and except is as below. The try colon, a part of the code that causes an exception, then followed by except exception type. If you don't know the particular exception type, then you can give a generic exception, then the code that basically handles the exception. Now let us try this. Let's try with dividing a number by 0. For that we have a equal to 10, b equals to 0. Then we put a try block here followed by a code that causes an exception, that is a divided by b. Then here you have to give except, then you'll have to give an exception, but we really don't, if you don't know the exception type, then you can give a generic exception like except exception as e, then a colon, then a colon, then a statement print error is, then you can give it as e. So this is an, this basically this carries an, e carries an error message. Let us go and try to execute this. Before that I will clear here. So what I am doing, I am trying to create an division error, that is division zero division error, and I know that this part of the code that causes an error, that is why I am trying to put this inside the try block, and once this happens the control comes into the except block, and in the except block we are trying to print the error message. Okay, so let us try to execute this. The error is division by 0, this particular variable that carries the error message here. Okay, and if I don't do this, for example, if I don't do this, then it will, I know that it will give me a zero division error, because we have seen this while trying, while creating the errors. So instead of giving a generic exception, I can directly give as here. Okay, and here I can give like error has occurred and close it off. Okay, you see it gives me a message that error has occurred. This is because first it tried to execute this statement, there was an exception, so the program control comes to this statement and it executes this statement. Okay, so instead of zero division error, because this is the right type of error for division by 0, if I try to give a file not found error, let us see what happens. Your exception is not being handled. Okay, so handling the exception is done in the particular, in this particular block, and actually here exception has occurred, but there was not proper exception handling, because the error that we encountered is zero division error, it is not the file not found error. Okay, so this was not handled properly. So what I can do here, I can again try to bring my generic exception here, then I can give like error has occurred. Okay, in this case it basically tried to execute a statement that causes an exception. It goes to the first except statement, it did not find matching error, because the error what we are expecting was zero division error, it is not matching with the file not found error, so it so it will not go into this particular statement. Then it comes to the next statement where basically we are handling the generic exception. Okay, so you can try can have multiple except blocks, wherever the error message matches, that particular exception handling statement will be get executed. Okay, this particular block will be get executed. Let us try this now. See, it has basically come to this statement and gave a message like an error occurred, and the error type is stored in E. This is the division by 0 error. Now let us try to handle the file not found error. For this we already have a code. It's trying to open a file that does not exist. You see there is an error called file not found error. So we will put this statement. Okay, I will basically put this here, and I will put the entire statement for reading a file inside a try, and after that I will put except block and giving an exact error, that is the file not found error, and I will basically give a message telling that an exception has occurred. We don't have this E, take it out, file not found, and file not found error occurred. Let us try to execute this. There is no exception, but we have handled the exception using the file not found error exception type. Now let us try to reference a variable that is not been defined and try to handle the error. For this we'll have to have a try block, and then I will create a print, then not defined, and after that I will try to create accept, and here I will have to handle with name error. Then I will have to give a message print name error occurred. Try to execute this. You say name error occurred. Okay, so I'm trying to reference a variable which is not defined, that leads into a name error. Yeah, let's try to simulate the type error and cache this exception. Again a try block, then we have a result equals to 5 plus str, and then we have to do a accept, and this error is type error. We know this is a type error, then colon, then we can have a print statement. You can say that type error occurred. Try to execute this. So you see type error occurred. This is how basically we can cache the type error. Similarly, we will go for value error. Let me clear this. Let me try to bring a value error, that is result equals to int, then I will give str here. This will result in type error. This will result, sorry, not in type error, value error, and try to catch this value error using a try statement. Here we'll have to do accept, then this is type of value error, and I can give it as print value error occurred. See, this is how we can catch the value error exception. Now let us try to catch an index error. So we will try to print animal of 4, okay, which does not exist. Then put inside a try statement. Then you have to do accept. This is a kind of index error. Then I can print it as index error occurred, right? See, you can see we were able to catch the index error using the except index error statement, right? We are able to catch this error. Accessing a key that does not exist in a dictionary. For that we have dict employee, then we will have a name colon name colon test, and let us try to print dictionary of age, for example. This will throw us an error, key error. Let us try to cache this. Try use a statement that causes an exception, then handle the exception with the key error, then I can give print key error occurred. Try to execute this. So we are gracefully handling the exception and the program is not crashing here. This is how basically we can make use of try and except. I also told that we can also use a multiple except. If you don't know, for example, what is the type of error that you are accepting, then you can give it as multiple exception, and you can give it as something like a pass. Okay, then again, if you don't know, then again you can give a generic error like exception as E. Then you can basically try to you have to give as E, then you will have to print an error telling that error is then whatever the value stored in this variable. Okay, so since we are using a generic exception here, this the program control will come here and it will try to execute this statement. Okay, let us try to see what happens here. See, error is age. Okay, it never went to never went to this particular statement because it was able to go into this exception block. So let us try to reverse this. Now you see here, it went to the first statement, could not match the error type. It came to the second one, the error type matched, and that is why it is basically printing here. So if I, instead of key error, if I make it as an index error here, the second iteration also, it is not catching it, the exception is not matching. Okay, actual exception that is occurred in this statement is not matching with the type here. So it will not match here, it will not match here. That is why the statement will come here and execute the error. Let us try to do this. You see, error is age. Okay, that is how basically if you can use a multiple except block inside a one try block. On a same lines as try and except, we also have something called finally. The finally block is used for clean up the code. It will run if the exception has occurred or not. It is often used for closing the files, releasing the resources, or the log completion. Let us try to use the finally block. Let us try to modify this code. Basically, we are trying to access a key that is not available in a dictionary. This will lead to an key error. So we'll try to remove the index error and we will put a key error and we will remove this particular block. Instead of which we will put a finally block, and in the finally block we will try to print always runs. Let us try to execute this. You see, so this caused an key error. That is why this particular statement got executed. Along with that, the finally statement is also got executed. Now, instead of age, we will try to access name. This operation will not cause any error because we are trying to access an key from the dictionary which is available. So, in this case, we don't expect any of the exceptions, but the finally block will always run. Okay, so we expect the program to print always run. So this is how it is being executed, right? This is how basically the finally will work. It will be executed irrespective whether an exception has occurred or not. So in a nutshell, except is used for catch and handling the exception, whereas finally will be used for cleanup or for the final code. Except runs when an exception is raised, but finally runs always no matter what happens. Up to now, what we have seen is creating some exceptions during some operation and trying to catch these exceptions. Now we will try to see how to raise the exception manually. So this can be done using a keyword called raise. Before jumping into the raise statement, it is good idea to understand why and where we use it in real world situations. There are many cases where you as a developer may want to enforce a rule, validate the user input, prevent the invalid operation, alert something that is wrong in a custom logic. In such cases, you can intentionally raise an exception using the raise keyword. Let us try to raise the exception manually. Let's start with the input validation. Okay, example could be ensuring that age is not negative. Age cannot be negative at all. So what we will do, we will take a variable age equal to 2 and we say that if age is less than 0, then I want to raise an exception telling that this is a type of value error. Then you will have to give the message age cannot be negative. It cannot be negative. Okay, so the syntax for rise is the keyword rise, then the type of error, then you can also give a message within the parenthesis, which is basically a string. Okay, so let us try to execute this now. Let us clear this. Now this will not throw an error because age is equal to 2. Now let us make age as -2 and execute it. And now the Python throws an exception manually telling that this is an value error with the message age cannot be negative. Now let us put this back to 2. Next use case is user authentication. Okay, so for this also we will basically try to raise a permission error. So I have a code already written. So we will have the username. We will give the username as admin, and then we can also give a password is equal to secret. If the username and password other than this, then we will raise a permission error. Okay, we will raise a permission error telling that you are not authorized to use this application. Okay, you are not authorized. You are not authorized. Okay, so now let us try to execute this. For the first time it will pass. So instead of secret, I will put it as secret 1. Now this should throw an error telling that you are not authorized. Okay, let us put it back and let us clear this window and let us save this. Okay, now let us check with the custom business logic. Example, prevent the withdrawal that is beyond the balance. Okay, if the balance, if your withdrawal amount is greater than your balance, then we'll have to raise an exception. Okay, for that we need to have the two variables. The balance, I will make it as 100. Then we'll have an amount that you need to withdraw. I will make it as, for a time being, I will make it as 30. Then I have a logic like if the amount is greater than balance, then I can raise a general exception. Okay, I will write, and I will not basically raise any kind of the prescribed uh, exception. I will raise only the generic exception, telling that it is, I will tell that, sorry, I will tell that insufficient fund. Okay, I will say that this is an insufficient fund. Try to execute this. Works fine. Let us make this as 130, and it gives an error telling that it is an insufficient fund. Insufficient fund. This is called as this is for checking the custom business logic. Okay, let us put this back. That brings us to the end of the session. In today's session, we explored how to handle exceptions in Python. That includes what are exceptions in programming, common Python exceptions along with real examples, how to use try, except and finally blocks, and how to raise the exception manually when needed. I hope you enjoyed learning with me. If you find this video helpful, don't forget to like, share and subscribe to stay updated with more content on Python for test automation. Thank you for watching.